loved him. It is never easy to deal with death, and although we know it's an inevitable part of life, talking about it is hard for us all. But it's important to talk about Lorne's life and about his death, and this helps in accepting the reality of the tragedy, and it means that grief's work is starting to be done for you all. So too is your ability to help yourself to heal. And in doing the work of grieving, you move toward a renewed sense of meaning and purpose within your own lives. So think about, talk about, treasure Lorne's memories, be your own timekeeper, heal in your own way, and heal in your own time. And although it is difficult to see beyond your sorrow and sadness today, looking back with all of our shared memories with each other throughout our service will help comfort you tomorrow. I would like to open our ceremony with the following words. Throughout our lives, there are things that we don't want to happen, but must accept. Things we don't want to know, but have to learn. And people we can't live without, but we have to let go. For each of us here today, life is a journey in time. Our birth is the beginning of that journey, and it's important to believe that death is not the end of our journey, but our destination. And we are thinking now of those who were closest to Lorne, and our thoughts are especially with his loving partner Jeanette, together for 37 years, and his stepchildren and their partners, Brett and Indri, and Donna and Snoop. Lorne was also the loving brother of Norm and fond sister-in-law of Gail. It is also important to remember the affectionate bond that Lorne shared as a loving pop to Lachlan, Michelle, Jack, George, Rico, Hayley, Jai, and Stevie. And as well, we think of all of you, everyone that is here physically today as well as online, and all the other people who over the years that have been important in Lorne's life. The people he always enjoyed having a chat with, the people whose company that he always enjoyed. And his caring ways will certainly be remembered by everyone. All of you are joined to him in some way. He would be disappointed if you did not celebrate the fact that you were privileged and honoured to have known him and be happy that you had the opportunity to love him and learn from him, and give thanks for the inspiration that he has brought into all of your lives. And throughout our service today, we're going to fashion a painting of Lorne's life and his character, with poems, fond memories, and a slideshow. There will be happy thoughts, there will be sad thoughts, and there will be many recollections. And hopefully when you leave here, you will take with you a deeper understanding, more personal picture of Lorne. He will forever be tied together within his family circle. The younger generation will no doubt carry on with some of his talents and traditions that have been passed down to them. In his honour today, memory candles are alight, symbolising hope and light in our world and in the next, with our hearts smiling because of him, and our love for him continuing to shine brightly. The burning candles represent grief, the pain of loss, as well as courage to confront your sorrow and comfort each other today. They are a light in Lorne's memory for the times that you have all laughed and all cried with him, and symbolise his dedication to his family. Today, the family have chosen to include a poem that was written about Lorne by his workmates from Callanda, where he worked as a disability nurse for many, many years. It is titled Ode to Lorne, listed in your order of service, and it is my privilege to now share it with you. This is a farewell to Lorne, who's been here 29 years. He'll need to rule up more red lines on which to shed our tears. No more gossip sessions under the clock he watched. No more throwing the spanner into the works he scotched. No more playing with rosters and setting husband away from wife. Instead, it's into the wildwood yonder, to a calendarless pokey life, and off to a weekend camping and bogging the four-wheel drive. Lots of beer and cooking, and watching the fishes fry. Cheerio, old man, we wish you well. I hope it's peace you find. And lift a glass to toast us all, those you left behind. Beautiful tribute, heartfelt from his workmates. And immediately now, of course, our thoughts turn to Lorne's personality and his character. Happy man, good sense of humour, someone who liked to socialise with his friends. He enjoyed attending the clubs, loved a beer, had nicknames for most of his mates. He also loved family time. Grandchildren were a highlight of his life, never missing an opportunity to spend time with them. There's no doubt that he was dedicated to Jeanette. They shared a wonderful togetherness, enjoying many fun times, socialising with neighbours, and I'm told Lorne always cooking a barbecue. He was a hard worker throughout his life, spending 12 years working in the bottle shop at Burke's Hotel and employed for 30 years as a disability nurse at Calanda in Colac. And as you are aware, 2 of our poems today have been written by those workmates, one which I have just shared with you and the other one Brett will present. Lorne also loved all animals, especially his cat Tosca. On a personal level, he was passionate about golf. More of a morning person, and for many years played 3 times a week with the 18-holers, as well as some games with the North East veterans. He enjoyed country and western music, loved his veggie garden and cooking, and throughout his life he displayed great practical and maintenance skills, always keeping busy and spending hours in his shed, fixing anything that was broken, and I'm told by Jeanette it was often various items from Burke's Hotel. And when we think about his life, there is quite a bit more to reflect upon. So it is my privilege to now ask his stepson Brett to come forward and share with you some of his fond memories and another special poem from Lorne's workmates at Calanda. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, Rhonda. So, I'm Brett, and I just wanted to say a few words about Lorne, who was stepfather to us and pop to his many grandchildren. Firstly, I wanted to acknowledge the hard time and grief Mum's already gone through with the insidious condition that eventually took Lorne's life. I've seen it written that the family of people with dementia go through loss and grief multiple times. Firstly, when the person slowly changes, then there's a loss of the person once known. Then there's the loss of the person from the home, and eventually they need 24-hour nursing care. Then there's the grief for the person when they die. Mum's shown great strength and support for Lorne over many years and these stages of loss. I first started at my first job in 1985 at Calanda Centre in Colac, an institution for people with disabilities, where Lorne was the boss of the nursing staff. This was a very important job where he ultimately had responsibility for the care and welfare of over 400 residents and was in charge of hundreds of staff. Despite being the boss and being referred to by many of the younger staff as Mr. Scoble at work, he was always the first person to line up for the Calanda social events. Whether it was a payday drinks at the Union Hotel or a camping weekend in Glen Eyre, Lorne was just Lorne when he was out with the rest of the staff outside of work. Actually, the annual camping weekend in Glen Eyre was a real highlight of the year for Lorne. He would drive down to the coast in his old Land Rover, which he affectionately referred to as the Greek Mercedes. He'd tow his boat loaded with everything from barbecue to tent and chainsaw. Most of the gear he would take other people fishing, to cook barbecues for other people. He would cook barbecues for everyone at camp, and rather than worrying about his own pleasure. That's what Lorne was like. He was always making sure other people were having a good time before himself. Unfortunately, I missed the Glen Eyre trip that was on the year before I started work, as I heard the story many times from people about Lorne's Land Rover tipping over off the sand track and into the river. all Lorne ever said whenever someone raised the story was what a great machine that Land Rover was. It still went fine and never rusted, despite being pulled out of the saltwater river. Lorne had a big veggie patch at the time, and by the time my son Jack was old enough to speak, he would always want to call in at Mum and Lorne's place to pick up some of Pop's soup. Lorne always had a big 2-litre jar of soup ready that he'd made from seasonal veggies, ready for Jack to take home. And whenever it was lunchtime, Jack always wanted to eat toast with Pop's soup. In Lorne's job as either the Assistant Director of Nursing or Director of Nursing, he had to be super organised. He would draft rosters for up to 12 months in advance for hundreds of staff. I would go into his office sometimes and see big spreadsheets spread out around the benches and tables in his office, with names penciled in and dates on 4-week rosters. Lorne would be hunched over these rosters, muttering to himself about sick leave, holidays, ayos. But as well as these rosters, he also had a 12-month planner for his time off with Mum. This included annual golf tournaments, snow trips, winery weekends, you name it. If there was a spare weekend, he would have some event penciled in to take Mum to. As well as weekend trips, there were also many overseas holidays during that time. Lorne and Mum went to Singapore, Thailand and Indonesia multiple times, just to mention a few of the trips. It was not unusual to see a large envelope at home with Sister Hogan written big type across the front. Mum would open it to find yet another brochure for a holiday destination, a theatre, restaurant, winery tour, where Lorne was planning to take on their next trip. But among these many trips were some regular golf tournaments to various places around Australia, including here at Yarrawonga, where he went each year. This is how Lorne came to love Yarrawonga and to make this his long-term plan for his retirement. Lorne also had a knack of getting complimentary tickets to the big golf tournaments in Melbourne, having many contacts in golfing, being a very good player himself. He took me to several of these tournaments, including the Australian Open and the Masters. On one trip, Lorne took me to the Victorian Open. He seemed to know a lot of the players and he knew a lot about the history of the event. When I asked him how he knew so much, he said, because I played in it once before. While Lorne was too humble to say anything himself, some of his golfing mates from those times told me that he'd chosen his studies and career over his sport, where he could have probably turned pro. Initially, Lorne put a caravan at the Shire Park in Caravan, and we all used that for holidays for quite a few years, until Mum and Lorne eventually bought a house here more than 20 years ago. Lorne was not idle once he retired though. He'd always loved to tinker in his shed, and he was in his element with a house to renovate, a workshop to fit out, and a garden to plant. Lorne quickly taught himself how to tile during the renovations, and he retiled the bathroom and the kitchen in that house himself. But he didn't stop there. I know. He tiled the floors, the entranceway, the back step, Mum's chopping boards, and even the top of the coffee table. His tiling obsession became the subject of some jokes within the family. My brother-in-law and I, as a joke, got an old stubby holder. We smashed up some tiles into little pieces and tiled a stubby holder as a prank Christmas present for Lorne. But far from being offended with our joke, Lorne was quite impressed with this tiled stubby holder, and it took pride of place on the bar at home. Lorne also worked for many years as a bartender. Lorne also worked for many years part-time at Burke's Hotel in Yarrawonga, doing paperwork, stock orders, and serving in the bottle shop. He soon became the unofficial handyman, as Rhonda's already mentioned, and Mum would roll her eyes when Lorne would come home from work with another ute load of chairs or broken bar stools in the back. The reason for the eye rolling being that if the furniture was slightly damaged, Lorne would repair it, take it back to reuse at the pub. If it was more severely damaged and being replaced, he would still rebuild it but want to keep it at home. Lorne was definitely ahead of his time with his ability to recycle and reuse things. He also had 2 Labradors at that time, which he walked every day without fail, and of course his cat named Tosca, which he doted on no end. After Lorne had been in Yarrawonga for a while, as has been mentioned, he started to come up with nicknames for me and his acquaintances, as he had previously for families and workmates, which you'll hear some of in the poem I'll read out shortly. Some of the names of people were Jack the Wrecker, Nettie May, or sometimes the Minister of War, More Beer and Mrs. More Beer, Mystery Vets, the Artiste, Sergeant Major, and the Mayor of Tungamar, and too many more to mention. Lorne was always helpful to us. He always offered advice and support when we needed it. He never criticised our sometimes questionable decisions and never judged us for our mistakes. He took people as they came and helped them out whenever he could. I'll now read out a poem written for Lorne by his colleagues when he retired from working at Colander Centre in Colac. Just to give some context to this, Lorne would attend the senior management meetings where people would throw up new ideas and want to change this and that. Lorne would sit back until the end and then he would say, have you considered this or thought about that? And would bring up the barriers, and he became known as the one who would throw the spanner in the works. So Lorne's nickname at work became Spanner. This is the poem written for when Lorne retired, which is called Mr. L.J. Scoble, Spanner. There is a fellow who you all must know. He was legendary in his manner. At Colander Centre he rostered the staff, and they all called him Spanner. You would often hear him lamenting his lot, e.g. the 9-day fortnight, which he never got. He always wanted a special pen, but T-Ball Baker held it then. The mighty Janefield was the bane of his life. 'Twas there reverse payback time was quite rife. He took great interest in matters afar, checking on parking, monitoring the milk car. He dubbed quite a few of the team here, Butch, Bang Bang, Bruiser and Talks, also Godfather to bring up the rear. Let's not forget the Reverend Mother, the #1 member, he was another. The 10-year plan is no longer, it would seem, nor do we hear of Lorne's regional team. Others have gone, please dry your eyes. Beak beef, mock fish, individual pies. Something else he proclaimed is not a myth well. Yes, you guessed it, time management with Bithell. The sun is now sinking, so let's check the roll and pay farewell to Lorne as he goes on patrol. Next one.
Thank you, Brett, for sharing those memories. And it's not easy to stand up here at such an emotional time, and I know everyone would have appreciated it. As you all know, Lorne was passionate about his game of golf. And in his honour, and as a tribute to that passion, and to all his golfing mates that are with us via live streaming, I would now like to present our second poem, titled A Golfer's Dream, also listed in your order of service. I must be off to the links again, for the call of the fairways wide is a loud call and a clear call that cannot be denied. It fills me with a mad desire to realise my dreams of tee shots long and iron strong to the heart of all the greens. So I'm off for a golfing break, far away from the cares of town, and I'll strive each day better golf to play till my handicap comes down. Then all I want is the magic puff and the straight and powerful drive to complete the course using skill and force in a brilliant 45. And no doubt any golfer can relate to those words. And to continue with some fond golfing memories, I would now like to ask Peter Warner, captain of the golf club, to please come forward and say a few words. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you very much for that. G'day everybody. Thanks for being here and at home for this celebration of Lorne's life. I can tell you it's a real privilege for me to be here and to offer my stories about Lorne. I haven't been racking my brain, they've just come one after another, my memories of Lorne. Excuse me, this really isn't my forte, but I will give it my best. And apologies to any non-golfers, because this is about golf. Well, where do I start? I do remember, and not many do, the exact moment that I made a great friend. I'm privileged. It was on the 4th hole of the Lake course, and it was about 20 years ago, so just bear with me. I rang up for a game of golf, and Evan Drew said to me, "Oh, there's a spot with Lorne Scoble, you'll enjoy that." And I thought, okay, that'll be great. So we get to the first tee, we shake hands, and off we go. And Lorne hits that beautiful draw down the middle, as he did from almost forever. My day started off in the trees and continued that way until we got to about the 4th. Played my shot to the green, the best shot I hit so far. Just caught the top of the bunker and dropped in. As I was lamenting my misfortune, bloke walked past me and said, "Geez mate, that was a bit of bad luck." I thought, I looked up and there he is with a smile on his face walking past me. I thought, "You rotten bugger, that wasn't very nice." Bit of golfing karma just a couple of moments later when Lorne missed a very, very short putt. Something that I saw him do in later years. I walked past him and I said, "Mate, that was a little bit of bad luck, wasn't it?" When I turned around, he had the biggest smile on his face and he said, "1-all." I knew that was the exact moment that I knew I'd made a new friend, a great friend. Banter, 19th hole, that's what Lorne was about. Golf was fun to him, and it was his aim to make sure that everybody enjoyed his company and the day. But the golf was only half of it, because then the aftermath would begin, and dissecting our rounds as we did, and more banter. It was fun. I had a great day, and I knew I'd made a great friend. It wasn't long after that I run into Bob Castles, and I said to Bob, "Geez, I enjoy Lorne's company. He's a tidy golfer." And Bob said, in his understated way, he said, "Yeah, Lorne can play." I didn't know, a lot of things I didn't know about Lorne, but I have learned that he could really play the game. One of his other great traits, he was a very generous man, and Jeanette will remember him sharing the driving on golfing day. As he did, he would drive the car over, play his golf, finish up in the 19th as we did, and then Jeanette would walk over, pick up the car, pick up Lorne and get him home safely. So it was quite nice of him to share the driving with you, I thought, Jeanette. Yeah, as time went by, I remember Lorne developed some arthritis in his hands and went through a bit of a rough patch anyway. In our 20-cent betting at the club, Lorne was not going through a good spell. And he came to me one day and he plonked down this stack of 1-cent coins. He'd glued 20 1-cent coins together, put them in front of me and said, "Warner, I've got no more money to give you, that's it." And I can tell you from then on, that was the Lorne Scoble trophy. And a lot of members will say that some people's 20 cents is worth more than others. Well, that was gold to Lorne and I haven't quite located it yet, Jeanette, but when I do, I'll return it to the rightful owner. As was Lorne's way, he didn't get down on himself. There was a silver lining to his arthritis, he told me. He'd been drinking out of pots most of his life, and he found it less painful to hold a schooner. So he thought that was good. If he was going to have arthritis, that wasn't a bad upside, I guess. On to things I didn't know, and I should have probed him more. I wish I'd known. He had lessons from Peter Thompson back in his younger days, and now when I think about that beautiful swing that he had, it's painfully obvious to me. He was a very smooth swinger. The other thing about Lorne I didn't know is he won Tats Live. Can you believe that? I was just thinking about putting my hand out, but apparently there was just enough money to buy a new set of golf clubs. Perfect, Lorne, perfect. Oh, the other one. At his best, he played up a +2 handicap. Now, for us old enough to remember prior to this current system, back then a +2 handicap was a serious golfer. He would have been in the top few in the state and probably top handful in the country with that type of mark. I wish I had known. I would have talked to him about all those people that he met and acknowledged, and that would have been terrific. What else do I know? I learned that he and Jeanette have had 37 years together. That's a couple of lifetimes, I reckon. And the other one, they met as nurses down in Colac, as Brett mentioned earlier. And as he said, Lorne was the boss. So these days, I'm not too sure that's all kosher in the workplace, the boss and underling relationship, but back then it obviously was fine. I think of Lorne, I've got a little tear in my eye, but I can tell you I've got a big smile on my face. He was a wonderful, wonderful man, a credit to our club. Thanks all very much for listening, and rest in peace, mate.
Thank you so much, Peter, for sharing those wonderful golfing memories and speaking bravely and openly about Lorne. And we're now going to take time to quietly reflect through a slideshow and give thanks for all that Lorne has meant to us. And the family have managed to find some special images to include as part of our service. So whilst you now listen to the reflection music, view those photos. May your affection and your respect for Lorne, like the candles burning brightly, continue to shine in your lives.
It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long, a beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did you ever know that you're my hero? And everything I would like to be. I can fly higher than an eagle.
our life was a paper, once plain, pure and white, till you moved with your pen, changing moods now and then, till the balance was right. Then you added some music, every note was in place, and anybody could see all the changes in me by the look on my face. And you decorated my life, created a world where dreams are apart. By painting your love all over my heart, you decorated my life. Like a rhyme with no reason in an unfinished song, there was no harmony, life meant nothing to me until you came along and brought out the colors. What a gentle surprise. Now I'm able to see all the things life can be, shining soft in your eyes. And you decorated my life, created a world where dreams are apart. By painting your love all over my heart, you decorated my life.
Presentation displayed some wonderful images, memories that will remain with you all forever. And it does remind us that what you leave behind is not that which is engraved into a stone monument, but that which is woven into the lives of you all. And as our final tribute, I would now like to ask a good friend of both Lorne and Jeanette's to please come forward, Jo Anwin, with whom many enjoyable golf trips were shared. Thanks, Jo.
Good afternoon, everyone. Those here in the chapel, and I know definitely that quite a lot of our golfing mates, Jeanette, are watching at home. My husband Rod and I met Jeanette and Lorne about 15 years back. Hopefully you'll excuse this slight vagueness of my recollection, but when we get to my age, such trends seem to blend into a blur. However, specifics don't matter that much. Having met Jeanette at golf, it was not long before I also met Lorne. What a delight that was. Member nights at the club on Fridays were the perfect time to meet up with friends and acquaintances. If Lorne and Jeanette were not away, they were at the club. So there was always time to stop by them to say, hello, what have you been up to this week? It was then not long before Laura and Jeanette joined our tables at golf club dinners and other special events. Lorne, always with a beer in hand, was an integral part of our social activities. After a few more years, Jeanette, who was a great organiser, invited Rod and I to join with herself and Lorne for occasional weekend golfing trips away to such places as Rich River, Thaguna and a few others. The Hidsons, who we saw a photo of just then, Baldwins and others were part of these trips. I'm sure we all have great memories of these times. Laurie was a quiet sort of a chap, had a great sense of humour. Whether it was golf, dinner or sitting around having a few beers or wines, Lorne's quips brought many a laugh and a wry smile. Lorne and Jeanette also participated in a number of seniors golf tournaments with annual trips to Mildura and Swan Hill, to name but a few. They were indeed part of the golfing fraternity. Anna Castles recently recalled that each year at the Murray Downs annual tournament, Lorne showed, surprisingly, his liking for soft serve ice cream. It seems that at those dinners, the people could help themselves from the soft serve machine, which I am told was indeed exactly what Lorne did. So much so that he was frequently asked, "Hey Lorne, what are you having for dessert tonight?" Peter's already and others have already covered Lorne's golfing prowess. However, on Saturday I was talking to Judy Kruger, a long-standing member of our golf club, the current lady captain and the current club champion, who is, needless to say, and by any measure, not a bad golfer. And I'll quote Judy. "When Lorne spoke about things golf, you listened. You would always learn something useful." And as Lorne's hands increasingly became disabled, he could still hit a fabulous ball. How many of us could not fathom, but he did. He hit these beautiful balls with the most crippled of hands. Lorne had many loves. He was absolutely devoted to Jeanette, his Kelly. You only need to see his eyes to realise how deep was this love. And as we've heard already, he loved their cat Tosca. In fact, he loved all cats. He had an affinity with them. Some years ago, Rod and I adopted a cat who was very wary of strangers, especially men. One day, Lorne brought Jeanette over to our home when Jeanette and I were heading off on a golfing trip. When Lorne saw Mrs. Puss in the garden, he rubbed his fingers together and looked at her. Not a word was spoken. Unbelievably, our cat walked towards him and rubbed against his legs. Lorne loved all living things, including magpies. I might add, I'm talking about the feathered ones here, although I think he had a bit of a feeling for the other ones as well. He talked to them wherever they were, around the home, on the golf course, anywhere. And very interestingly, he called them all Belinda. And of course, as most of us know, Lorne loved beer. Lorne was warm and friendly, good for a laugh. He enjoyed life, his friends, family, acquaintances. He was a genuine, good Aussie bloke. Rod and I, together with endless others, will miss Lorne, none more so than Jeanette and his family. We will remember his lovely personality, his sense of humour, our golfing dinners, our trips away, and all the fun times we shared. Condolences to Jeanette and other family members. Goodbye, Lorne. Rest in peace, mate.
Thank you so much, Joe, and to all speakers. And as our final tribute, Brett would just like to say a few more words. Thanks, Brett.
Thanks, I just wanted to acknowledge, I didn't have this in my talk because the tributes were just coming through as we got here, but there's a message board for people who used to work at Calander, and there was quite a few tributes coming in just as we came here. I'm sure there's many more now, the word has spread, but I won't read them out, but just to acknowledge the people who posted tributes, and these people will know who they are. Leanne, Dubby, Julie, also known as Spider, Tracy, Shirley, Lorraine, Stretch, Helen, Joe, Lobby, Mary and Bob. Just thanks to those people and others who've posted nice messages. Thanks, Ron.
For some moments in life there are no words, and although in a practical sense Lorne is no longer part of your lives, death can be regarded as simply shedding our physical bodies, like the butterfly or cicada that sheds its cocoon or its outer shell, then transitioning to a new, higher state of consciousness. And it's very clear today that Lorne has left a legacy of kindness and involvement in the heart of both his family and his friends. And today we've all stopped the onrush of our lives and we've acknowledged our appreciation for the privilege of sharing a part of his life. Sadly, as you are all aware, 5.5 years ago his health began to decline with the onset of dementia, and he was admitted to Woods Point. And his health further deteriorated over the past week, and he sadly passed away there on the 12th of July, aged 82 years. Sometimes death is like a gift and a blessing, a ceasing from struggle as sleep can be. And for Lorne, this departure was a release from all of his pain. But naturally there's a mixture of emotions, deep sorrow today. On behalf of the family, I would like to offer special thanks to the staff at Woods Point for taking wonderful care of him, always treating him with respect and with dignity. Jeanette's care and encouragement also displayed the true meaning of love and gave Lorne strength in dealing with his illness. No one will fit into his shoes, but the influence of his personality and strength will live on in the acts and thoughts of you all. Today we formed a portrait of a man who knew much, loved much, and to close our service I would like you to become as one with him, whilst I present a final reading chosen by Jeanette, titled A Reflection on an Autumn Day, listed in your order of service. I took up a handful of grain and let it slip flowing through my fingers, and I said to myself, this is what it is all about. There is no longer any room for pretense. At harvest time, the essence is revealed. The straw and chaff are set aside. They have done their job. The grain alone matters, sacks of pure gold. So it is when a person dies. The essence of that person is revealed. At the moment of death, a person's character stands out happy for the person who has forged it well over the years. Then it will not be the great achievement that will matter, nor how much money or possessions a person has amassed. These, like the straw and the chaff, will then be left behind. It is what he has made of himself that will matter. Death can take away from us what we have, but it cannot rob us of who we are. It's a lovely choice, Jeanette, very heartwarming tribute. So today has been a mixture of sorrow and joy, sorrow at the time ahead without Lorne, and joy to reflect on all the memories that he has left us. And this man was special to you all, and we have now honoured his life of 82 years. However, it is now time to say our final goodbye to our dear friend Lorne. Here in this act we tenderly and reverently commit his body to the elements of cremation, from which all life comes and in the end all life returns. Earth to earth, dust to dust, and ashes to ashes. Lorne is no longer bound by this world, ready for his spiritual journey, reunited with other family members who have gone before. We leave him in peace, and with respect, we all bid him farewell. And please remember that Lorne would want all of you to live your lives to the full in his memory. So let us all now go in peace, support each other, open to the healing power of those wonderful memories, and continue to value the very precious gift of Lorne's life. Our final music tribute is a favourite song of Lorne's called The Love Cats. And hopefully when you hear this piece of music in the future, you'll be reminded of him and be able to smile. Thank you all once again for your attendance, your love and your support today.